First of all, when I was on this show last with Mr. Barghouti, he said that he hadn't said something he said, and we actually had to issue a confirmation on the programme subsequently that he had in fact said the words that he had denied saying, but that had come out of his mouth praising the so-called martyrs. Let me say two other things. Firstly, on the question of the West Bank, frankly, in Israel, there are very few people in Israel who believe that even if you can have a two-state solution, now is a good time to talk about it. I was in the Knesset, the parliament, earlier today, and among other people saw the head of the left-wing opposition, Mr. Lapid. He doesn't believe this is a time to speak about a two-state solution. Why? Because if you gave a state to the Palestinians, and don't forget, Israel did give a state to the Palestinians in 2005 in the Gaza, and look what we got from it. The world got its money ransacked, the Hamas leaders making themselves fantastically rich, and then sending rockets into Israel. So the first thing is, even the most left-wing figures in Israeli politics don't think this is a good time to talk about the two-state solution because, among other things, it would suggest that there was a reward for the terrorists of October the 7th, and the reward for the actions of that day was to double down on giving the Palestinians yet another state. The second thing that has to be said about that, if I may, is that on the subject of the West Bank, if you go to the West Bank, as I was again the other night, and if you stand in the hills overlooking Israel, you will see from those hills the lights of Tel Aviv, the city I'm standing in at the moment. You'll see the lights of Haifa, and you'll see the lights of Ben Gurion Airport. Now, knowing what Israel knows about what Hamas did with the Gaza, making it into a military infrastructure and firing rockets at southern and central Israel, why on earth would the Israelis give another piece of territory which they didn't have security over in the West Bank to another Palestinian faction, which would have the ability to fire similar rockets at every single part of Israel? And I need to add one other thing, quickly. On the subject of the Palestinian Authority, many people outside Israel seem to think that the Palestinian Authority is, as it were, the peaceable wing of Hamas, or is the sort of Sinn Féin to Hamas's IRA. That is not the case. The Palestinian Authority, as well as being a deeply corrupt entity, which I don't need to tell Mr. Barghouti about, he knows well about that, as well as being a deeply corrupt entity, the Palestinian Authority that is funded by the Israelis, as well as the Europeans, the British and the rest of the international community, pays salaries to terrorists. It pays salaries to the people who kill people in Israel. And that is something absolutely impossible to make peace with.
I just heard Mr. Barghouti use the word disgusting, so Mr. Barghouti, over to you.
It is disgusting. It is
disgusting. Mr. Morgan, I think you have to be fair. You can't bring Mark Regev and give him like 10 or 15 minutes and then bring another pro-Israeli and make him share the time with me. You have to be fair in giving me enough time, because what we've just heard is absolutely rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. Just repeating Israeli propaganda, just repeating false, and I don't agree with him that he has verified what I said. I don't agree with him totally. And he is repeating the same aggressive and fascist speech. They don't want two states. What do they want to do with the 7 million people? 7 million Palestinians live on the land of historic Palestine, equal to the number of Jewish people. What is the solution? They don't want two-state solution? Fine, let's have one democratic state with equal rights for everybody. But no, Netanyahu and his fascist government, he has fascists in his government. He has Smotrich and Ben Gvir, who call themselves fascist. These people don't want to see a two-state solution, don't want to see one democratic state. So their solution is exactly what they are trying to do in Gaza now, which is genocide and ethnic cleansing. Genocide. It is genocide what's happening, because we are talking about 32,000 Palestinian people killed.
Here we go.
Including those under the rubble, and 64,000 people injured, 63,000 people injured. That is 4% of the population. If that had happened in the United States of America, you would be talking about 12 million people killed or injured. Is that acceptable?
Okay.
Is it not that Israel is occupying the West Bank?
Okay,
Isn't the United States of America saying that there is occupation?
Okay,
the international law says there is occupation.
In 1948, the population inside of the Gaza Strip was 80,000 people. In 2025, it is 2.2 million. Let that resonate, and go Google it.
I'm going to go back to Douglas. So Ephraim Mervis, the UK's...
In 1948, let me just say this. In 1948, there were around 1 million Jewish people living in Arab nations: Libya, Lebanon, Syria, Morocco, Egypt, Jordan, Algeria. About 1 million people in 1948, Jewish people in all these Arab nations. There were 150,000 of them living in Morocco. Today, there are less than 2,000. Today, between all of those Arab nations, there are between estimated 5 to 10,000 Jewish people. Explain to me the ethnic cleansing that's really going on in the Middle East, that has been going on in the Middle East. Explain it.
Chief Rabbi has said that using the word genocide to describe Israel's actions in Gaza is an increasingly frequent disingenuous misappropriation of the term. He said the use of the term was a moral inversion which undermines the memory of the worst crimes in human history and designed to tear open the still gaping wounds of the Holocaust.
Let me just quickly say this about the genocide thing. Of course that's the case. Mr. Barghouti likes to throw around the word fascist. Fine, I'll throw it back at you, Mr. Barghouti. Not just a fascist, but an apologist for terrorists. Fine. We can all throw around slurs at each other. But more important is the fact that you said that I had told lies. Unlike you, I don't tell lies. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Unlike you, I don't speak out of two sides of my mouth. I'm speaking out of one side of my mouth, and it's direct at you. So let me just correct what you just said. You said what I said were lies. Unfortunately for you, I have here with me the amended Palestinian prisoners law of 2004. Now, Mahmoud Abbas, who now runs the Palestinian Authority, signed this into law. This means that, and I'm quoting Article 2 here, prisoners, anyone incarcerated in the occupation's prisons for his participation in the struggle against the occupation will be given a salary let me finish my point. Will be given a salary by the Palestinian Authority. Oh, you think they're freedom fighters? Well, let me tell you another couple of things then. Because everyone watching pays their taxes, and some of their taxes go to the Palestinian Authority. Here's the budget, the Palestinian Authority in 2018. This is the PA's own budget, Mr. Barghouti, so don't lie about that. $162 million was allocated to the Prisoners and Released Prisoners Ministry. In 2018, approximately $193 million was given by the PA to families of the martyrs. There is an increasing list, depending on how many Jews you've killed, of the amount of money you get. Is the Palestinian Authority doing that or not, Mr. Barghouti? Because I have their budget in my hand.
OK, Mr. Barghouti, out of respect for fairness, answer that question.
Yeah, but I am sure your guest has to be a bit polite. You can't keep saying
well, you can answer that one question.
Well, I will answer it. Yes, they support the prisoners' families. They support as form of social security support. They support nobody. Even if you consider, even if you consider somebody is doing something wrong, you cannot punish his children and his wife in an act of collective punishment.
This is salaries to the people who do the terror, as you well know, Mr. Barghouti.
And then you said something wrong also. Palestinian Authority really does not. I don't defend the Palestinian Authority, but I'm telling you, 90% of the Palestinian Authority budget comes from taxpayers, from Palestinian people. And only 10% comes from
the Israeli government.
No. And Israel is committing piracy, stealing our taxpayers' money, preventing health people from getting their salaries, preventing the Palestinian Authority from... You shut up, please. Let me answer. Can you shut up? Don't interrupt me, please.
Well, you don't answer,
I will be interrupting you each time you speak. You shut up. You are not the one who is asking me the questions. You're not the anchor, so shut up, please. And let me answer. I am saying what you are trying to do here is to mislead the discussion. The main discussion here is there Israeli occupation of Palestinian land or not? If people are occupied, what does international law says? International law says that people who are under occupation have the right to struggle against their occupiers using all forms.
Doesn't.
No. That's what the UN says. You can't deviate the discussion. And the main fact here is that the problem we have is that Israel is occupying Palestinian land, and Israel is oppressing Palestinian people. Since 1967, Israel conducted 1 million arrests against the 7 million people who are living there. How could this be acceptable?
Okay,
What we see here is the
let
worst
Doug-
and
okay.
most difficult
I have to
occupation
answer
in
that.
modern
I
just
have
to be
to
clear,
answer that.
just to be clear,
Unless you tell
I am
me
the
that
anchor.
occupation is okay.
I am the anchor, and I'm now going to Douglas respond to that. Douglas.
Two things.
Is
First of all,
occupation
Mr.
okay?
Barghouti
Answer me.
talks about the
Is
Israelis
Israel
not
okay?
wanting a
Let Mr.
two-state
Murray
solution.
speak, please.
Mr. Barghouti
answer
doesn't
me.
want a
Mr.
two-state
Barghouti,
solution.
question.
He
Mr.
and-
Are
Barghouti,
they
let Douglas
occupying
Murray
us or
respond. Don't talk over him.
Yeah, okay, fine, please.
Mr. Barghouti doesn't want a two-state solution because he doesn't want a Jewish state. He wants the river
That's
to the
not
sea
true.
to be a Palestinian state, ruled by him and his corrupt friends. But secondly, he cannot answer the question I've put to him repeatedly.
I
This
think
is the
the main
PA
corrupt-
budget. It rewards terrorism. And let me just finish, Mr. Barghouti, since I allowed you that right in the end. This budget not only extends to rewarding the people who carry out acts of terrorism against Jews and the families of people who do, thus incentivizing terror, and that's the Palestinian Authority.
You
The
are
Palestinian
deviating the
Authority has
discussion.
also now the Palestinian Authority has also now committed to pay salaries to the fighters and the terrorists of Hamas from October the 7th and their families. So tell me, please, Piers, or Mr. Barghouti, where is the good negotiating partner on the Palestinian side here exactly?